Chapter 2. Events leading to the Council of Nicaea I. Donatist Schismatic Controversy. The first historical event that caused the Council of Nicaea I, 325 ABCE, to be convened was the Donatist Schismatic Controversy. The Donatist Schismatic Controversy was a dispute that affected and divided the exterior Coptic religious community in North Central Africa and Northeast Africa during the 4th century. Donatism was primarily religious in origin. It began with a quarrel over the reconciliation of the traders, clerics, and bishops who were responsible in handing over their sacred writings to the Imperial Roman Emperor Diocletian during the Diocletian persecution, 303 to 305 ABCE. Questions were raised regarding the validity of the ordination conferred by bishops who had conformed to the imperial demands. In particular, the actions of Bishop Mensurius of Carthage were challenged. He had satisfied the persecution authorities by handing over the sacred writings. His actions were considered sinful and immoral by the exterior Coptic religious community, who claimed that he should have offered himself to be martyred in the spirit of their predecessors during the Decian persecution, 250 to 251 ABCE. This thought received support from Bishop Donatus of Negre and Bishop Secundus of Tegesi, the metropolitan of Numidia. They reasoned that the part played by the minister in the administration of the holy baptism for sanctity was substantial and not merely instrumental. Therefore, they maintained that a minister without grace could not confer the holy sacrament of baptism. Since they held that all persons outside the Coptic religious community lacked grace and holiness, which was required in the ministry, sanctity could only be obtained inside the exterior Coptic religious community. For them, their religious community was an exclusive caste that should not be contaminated by contact with known sinners, least of all with the infamous traitors who had handed over the sacred writings to be burned by the persecutors and who refused martyrdom. It was further declared that any bishop or clergy who communicated with the traitors should be cut off from the exterior Coptic religious community and lose both his sacred character and the power to confer sanctity. The holy Coptic exterior religious community contained no known sinners, for it was absolutely separated from the world of sinners. This schism caused the exterior Coptic religious community to become weak and divided. This weakness and division gave Constantine I the devious idea and opportunity to once again offer this created European image of Serapis to our ancestors, the exterior Coptic Egyptians who had rejected this image at this time for 633 years. Constantine thought that this idea was a way not only to get Serapis accepted into the exterior Coptic religious community, but himself as well, something that his predecessors before him could not do. The donation of Constantine. As a result of the Donatist Schismatic Controversy, the second historical event that caused the Council of Nicaea I, 325 ABCE to take place was offered. It is known today as the donation of Constantine. This was the idea of Emperor Constantine I, who came up with the devious idea of wanting to expand the worship of Serapis throughout North Africa. Egypt, Libya, Tanzania, Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania, all of Europe, and all of the Northeast Africa, today's Turkey, Syria, Jordan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. In order to do this, he needed the spiritual validation and support of the exterior Coptic religious community. His idea was to get the exterior Coptic religious community to apotheosize the image of Serapis, just like their brethren, the Melkites, and to accept this image as a god, and to use this religious community as an incubator for this purpose. Constantine, at this point, had to find someone in the exterior Coptic religious community to accept and go along with this idea. He approached Sylvester I, who was a member of the exterior Coptic religious community in Constantinople, Turkey. Turkey at this time had a large indigenous population of Coptic African Egyptians, as well as other parts of Northeast Africa. Note that for political reasons, today this area is known as the Middle East. Sylvester I accepted the bribe from Constantine, which contained the following. 1. Constantine wanted to be and was baptized into the Melkite Coptic religious community in order to become a part of this community. Note, this is what Alexander and the Ptolemies unsuccessfully tried to do for themselves. 2. After Constantine was baptized, he gave Sylvester I his imperial power and authority over the people of the community, the Melkite and exterior Coptic religious communities. 3. By giving Sylvester I his imperial power, dignity, and emblems, all on a temporal basis, this made the words and decisions of Sylvester infallible and inerrant. Having this imperial power, Sylvester was no longer a member of the exterior Coptic religious community. The reason being is that the exterior Coptic religious community rejected Constantine, Serapis, and Sylvester I. 4. With this union, Sylvester became the new leader and head papa of the new Melkite Coptic religious community, and Constantine became just a member. This donation also made Sylvester the world's first person of African origin, other than a European, to become the vicar of Serapis, the Christ image. With this new title as the head of the Melkite religious community, his sole purpose was to get Serapis accepted by the exterior Coptic religious community. 5. This union between Constantine and Sylvester brought about the Apostles' Creed, i.e., a Reform Creed. Note, this Reform Creed is the original and true Apostles' Creed and should not be confused with the Apostles' Creed used today in Christian theology. This creed was originally established to reform the exterior Coptic Egyptian religious community and remove them from the established way of thinking and practice of paying homage to their ancient Egyptian ancestors, divine triad of Osiris the Father, Horus the Son, and Isis the Holy Hathor Cow Mother, a spiritual practice that was established by their ancient Egyptian ancestors during the time of antiquity. Instead, Sylvester wanted the Apostles' Creed put in its place to worship the European spiritless image of Serapis. Number 6. This donation and union between Constantine and Sylvester I also made Sylvester what would be considered today in Christian theology the pseudo-apostle Peter. Constantine, as emperor and vicar of Serapis, gave his authority to Sylvester. Note, today, all popes of the Roman Catholic Church claim to get their papal authority from Peter, and they claim Peter got his authority from Christ. As one can see, Constantine was the vicar of Serapis, and the image of Serapis later became the Messiah, Christ, at the Council of Ephesus, 431 ABCE. Also recall how the created European image of Serapis was created by a council of ancient Egyptian priests and priestesses in Memphis, Egypt, 320 BCE. They took two of our ancient Egyptian gods, Osiris and Apis, Ra, and put them together as a composite to create the name Oserapis, and gave the assimilated characteristics of Osiris to the image of Ptolemy I, Lagi, thus making the image of Ptolemy I a pseudo-god. All Greek and Roman rulers represented this false, spiritless image of Serapis as they ruled Egypt and parts of the North and Northeast Africa, beginning with Ptolemy I, Soter, and continuing with the Roman rulers, just as the pharaohs of ancient Egypt governed Egypt by representing themselves as Osiris, thus keeping the Maatian Creed in balance with the priesthood in Egypt. Similarly, the Greek and Roman rulers represented themselves as vicars of Serapis. At this point, Sylvester began to set up his own council of bishops and clergymen who went along with the bribe or donation. Together, they started the foundation for the pagan religion called Christianity. This can be attested to by studying the council meetings of Nicaea I, 325 ABCE, Constantinople I, 381 ABCE, Ephesus, 431 ABCE, and Chalcedon, 451 ABCE. From this study, one will be able to see how the created image of Serapis was made to be Christ and how the creation of the pagan religion called Christianity came into being. It took 751 years from the creation of the Serapis image in 320 BCE to the Council of Ephesus, 431 ABCE, to transform this European image of Serapis into the pseudo-Messiah, the Christos, the Christ. Therefore, the Council of Ephesus has to be used as a starting point for pseudo-Christ, and the Council of Chalcedon must be used as the beginning of the pagan religion called Christianity. If you are told about a Jesus Christ, Christians, or Christianity before the Council of Ephesus, 431 ABCE, or the Council of Chalcedon, 451 ABCE, or even a Christian church before the building of the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, 532 ACE, you are being misled on purpose or out of ignorance. If the purpose of the donation of Constantine had been accomplished during the life and reign of Constantine, he would have taken back the imperial and temporal power he bestowed upon Sylvester I and placed him as Caesar o Papa over the Melkite and exterior religious communities. His plan was to further spread this pagan worship of Serapis through Oriental North Africa, Northeast Africa, and all of Europe, with himself as the leader, Caesar o Papa. This was to be done after the incubation and acceptance of Serapis by the exterior Coptic religious community. However, this devious idea of Constantine's did not work during his life and reign, mainly because of strong resistance from the majority members of the exterior Coptic religious community. This donation, bribe, stayed in place in the Melkite Coptic religious community among some of its bishops and clergy until the reign of Roman Emperor Justinian I. I will explain the role played by Justinian and his wife Theodora in Chapter 7, The Council of Constantinople II. Writers of history have hidden the real meaning and true significance of the donation of Constantine. They do this by using the names of Lorenzo Valla, Nicholas of Cusa, and Caesar Baronius for disqualifying purposes. In its place, the European religious scholar community has created the Edict of Milan. This was done to make the world population think that there were Christians during the time of Constantine. One of the created stories that surrounds this fallacy is the story of how Constantine was supposed to have been converted to Christianity. The story states that in 312, on the eve of the battle on the Milvian Bridge near Rome, Constantine had a vision to which he attributed his conversion to Christianity. The story goes on to say that Constantine beheld a fiery cross in the heavens beneath which was written in Greek, by this sign thou shalt conquer. However, Constantine also is said to have had a dream telling him to place the Greek monogram representing Christ, a combination of the letters X and P, upon the shields of his soldiers. The so-called legend continues to state that on the following day, Constantine was victorious, killing both Maxentius and his son, and as a symbol of victory, he adopted the monogram for his labrum, imperial standard. The story further states that in 313 AD, Constantine published the Edict of Milan, granting freedom of religion and stopping the persecution of the Christian. The story goes on to say that Constantine's reign marks a turning point in European history because he is, in a large measure, responsible for the fact that Christianity became the dominant religion in the Western world. Permit me now to explain why the Edict of Milan is a fallacy. 1. As previously indicated, during the time and reign of Constantine I, 306 to 337 ABCE, there was no Jesus the Christ. Therefore, no Christians or a religion called Christianity or Christian church existing anywhere on the planet. The reason being is that the Serapis icon image had not been made the Messiah, Christos, by the new Melkite Coptic religious community. 2. What actually happened is that Constantine made a promise to Sylvester I to stop the persecution of the exterior Coptic Egyptian religious community if the community would accept the created European image of Serapis as a god. This religious community had been under constant religious oppression and persecution, beginning with Ptolemy I Soter, which continued into the Roman era for their refusal to worship the European Serapis image. A deal was made between Constantine and the Metropolitan Coptic Egyptian Bishop of Constantinople, Sylvester I, who at the time was the exterior metropolitan bishop of the Coptic exterior religious community in Constantinople, Turkey. Constantinople during this time had a large indigenous population of Coptic Egyptians. The deal was made between Constantine and Sylvester I to return the homes taken from members of the exterior Coptic religious community and to stop persecuting this community if Sylvester I would accept what is known today in his history as the donation of Constantine. The return of their homes was particularly significant because the exterior Coptic religious community held their religious fellowship in two places, their homes and the cemetery. They were not allowed to build any buildings for religious purposes. Their homes were used for spiritual fellowship, and the cemetery was used to honor their special dead, some of whom allowed themselves to be martyred by the Greeks and the Romans. In their honor, they built special structures called martyria, which were the world's first form of sepulchre tombs. The strong statement by Arius. The devious idea of Constantine I to get Serapis accepted did not work during his reign and lifetime, mainly because of the resistance from the majority members of the exterior Coptic religious community. One such person was Arius, the Alexandrian presbyter, who, in 319 ABCE, stated that the image of Serapis was a created creature. This was the third important historical event to cause the Council of Nicaea I to be convened. The strong statement by Arius stated that the image of Serapis was a created creature, alien and dissimilar in all things from the Father, Osiris, a perfect creature above all other man-made creatures, but a creature nevertheless. This resistance started the Arianist and Monophysite movement against the Serapis image and continued with the coming of the European Arab Monophysite in the 7th century. The Arabs continued the resistance after being taught and introduced to Monophysite Christianity by the Coptic Egyptian Jacob Baradaeus, aka James Baradi. Eventually, this led to the iconoclasm controversy, which caused the Council of Nicaea II to be convened in 787 ACE. And continued into the Photius Philippi Schism, 869 to 70 ACE, and the 10th century Bogomil Schism. This resistance lasted until the name Muhammad first came on the scene of history and was given the same attributes of the Christ icon in 1240 ACE. Thus, the man-made religion Mohammedanism was created, later to be called Islam. Today's history books are calling Arius a heretic. They are saying his strong statement about the creature Serapis, known today as Jesus the Christ, was heresy. Nevertheless, Arius was right, and today's historians are wrong. The Donatist schismatic controversy, along with the donation of Constantine and the strong statement by Arius, caused the Council of Nicaea I in 325 ABCE to be convened in Bithynia, modern Iznik, northwestern Turkey, and northeast Africa. This meeting was held in the palace of Constantine. The Melkite Coptic Egyptians were now an organized council of hand-picked bishops and clergy. They were organized under the new head, Melkite Bishop Sylvester I, who called for this council meeting to be convened. Now let us proceed into each council meeting. Each one of these council meetings was convened by the Melkite Coptic Egyptian papists, bishops, and clergy, except for the Council of Constantinople II in 553 ACE, which was called for by the Roman Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. These council meetings were convened because of the opposing resistance of the exterior Coptic religious community, who rejected the image of Serapis as God and repudiated Sylvester I for accepting the donation of Constantine. Keep in mind, these council meetings were convoked to make the created creature Serapis into the Messiah, Christos, the Christ, equaling Jesus the Christ.